This is Pattern Practice.
Welcome to Pattern Practice. We are your hosts, Mike and Joe. I did it right this time. Where we talk about, well, what are we talking about today? This is a meta, right? That's one of the, is it the index? Is this an index finger kind of an episode?
Thank you, Joe. Good to be here. I was thinking about that because I made a list of things that I might talk about here, and some of them I think are meta related, and some of them I'd say are more free form. And I noticed maybe our meta calls don't always turn into full on meta episodes. I don't know if setting the intention at the beginning is the right course. I don't know.
I don't want to put you in a box. I don't want to put you in a box.
That's what I'm saying.
We're going to place
I don't
this
know.
fucker up
I
anyway.
did think about it.
What's at the top of your list?
Well, it wasn't, but now it is, just in the spirit of, it's funny is I was working on my audio before I even joined the call because I was like, today, we're not going to talk about our audio to start the call. So I'm going to talk about our audio to start the call because I thought it was interesting because I did all this for myself. But then when I joined, you had some fucked up audio situation. I see your beautiful microphone there, not plugged into anything. And I'm aware you're, moving.
I could probably plug this in and just hold it next time.
That's fine.
I am moving.
Yeah. So I know you're in between worlds right now. And it's going to be weird for a little while, but that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about was how when we came in here, you had these wired headphones, archaic technology, ancient. Yep, beautiful. Oh yeah, because we're YouTubing, and so you had these in, but you had them coming up from behind, like you were like a studio actor, or like a news anchor, right up and around. But I couldn't hear shit because the microphone is actually on the cord. Have you ever worked with somebody that had the headphones on, but the entire time you talk, they're holding the microphone? You ever work with those? Oh my god! It is a meme, isn't it? It must be a meme. Since
so
you
what I
exactly
need from you is for the project to be done yesterday.
Oh my
actually,
fucking
if
god!
you could,
Isn't it
if it
triggering?
could be done yesterday, that would be fantastic. And it's like, bro, stop eating the mic.
That's all I wanted to talk about. How triggering is that?
It's almost as triggering as I won't do it because it'll be on video forever. I was going to pick up my webcam and put it right here and look up at my face to be like,
oh, in the nose.
Guys, can you hear me? And it's like, bro, take your phone away from your face. Like no one is testing that angle when they build this stuff.
In the nose is hilarious. I when I saw you and I realized that that's what was going on, my mind instantly went to maybe three people came to mind immediately, and I was like, man, how have you lived your whole life like that? Like, why haven't you have a good job? Like, why didn't you just get real earbuds? Is my first thought. But also, they designed the thing to work. Like, you could just let it dangle. Now I understand. Today I learned you don't want to actually put it on your back. If you put the microphone on your back, it's less effective. But if you just let it hang,
yeah,
God,
it's fine.
Listeners, if
designed.
you use the headphones with the inline microphone, please just let it ride, let it dangle.
This, it's like, it's fine.
It's right there. Yeah, it's very.
Something else. You were like, oh yeah, you get the tap, you get the pause. Little button here. I've been using the shit out of it to skip ads. You can double tap it, skips ads, no problem. Great when my buds have died because I use them at work like constantly now.
Yeah, it's like a little lapel mic or something. Just kind of weird. A little too secret agent for me.
The falcon has left the nest.
Yeah, so don't do that. Okay, so what else I have? This is kind of work related. You ever use JIRA templates?
I don't recall. Probably.
Yeah.
Because I've used issue templates we're in GitLab over here. Templates for when you open an issue, it's the template of the issue.
Okay, so issue templates would be a more generic term, I guess.
I didn't know if JIRA template referred to some kind of workflow system. That's why I wanted to be like, I'm hearing an issue templating system. With like description, stuff we're not going to read, scope we're going to ignore, and then like maybe some labels.
Okay. Yeah. It's funny just because uh working with a new EM, and she was like, I want to know if you can set up a JIRA template. And I realized, like, because I don't care, like, yeah, sure, whatever, yeah, whatever. You want a template? Sure. But I realized that I had this like visceral reaction underneath that was like, ugh, JIRA template, ugh, God. And I wanted to dig into that a little bit. Like, why do I feel this way? I was trying to be self-aware. I'm like, why do I have this reaction to something that's so kind of benign? And I did think about it, and I guess I want to know your thoughts about my thoughts. So I was like, you know what? I think what it is every time I've found myself trying to shoehorn issues into a template, I find like two things happen. One, I never find a template that fits. Like I always feel like there's missing context. So, I end up filling up the other section or whatever with a whole bunch of extra detail. And two, I usually find that I'm doing a lot of extra work to fill in portions of a template that nobody's ever going to read or care about. And so what it feels like to me is like I'm adding a bunch of overhead to the process, that I don't really need. I think like my template has evolved. It's either evolved over time or it's kind of entirely bespoke for whatever the given project is or something. And I don't know if that's just me feeling like I'm better than the template, or I've been doing this long enough, like I know what matters and what needs to be said. Like I think there's some of that to it. Like a template I think is maybe better for someone who you're trying to meet some kind of like contract with the engineers, like you need these pieces of information, I will provide these pieces of information, and maybe it's something like that. I think heard that there's at least one engineer on my team who would like a template. I think that they just prefer more structure in general, though. Like they prefer things to be templated. They prefer policies to be written down as like a step-by-step thing. There would be like an Alex in book club, love the 1, 2, 3s ABCs of life. And if it helps like one engineer, right? Like what's the harm? Unless it's a devastating amount of overhead for me that is providing very little value to the engineers. But then I thought, well, I could make the template and then just ignore it. Like I could make the template and then not follow it if I really feel like it's holding me back or something. I also realize a majority of my JIRA tickets, because I've described before how ridiculously I've set things up for myself, but I do a lot of my documentation in Notion. And so usually by the time I'm making a ticket in JIRA, I've already done a lot of thinking, a lot of writing, made some tables, talked requirements. I'm linking out to a bunch of other resources and docs, which I think the previewing and stuff shows a lot better in Notion. And what I really love about Notion when you're documenting a project, right? You're documenting a project, you're thinking about requirements, you're thinking about priorities, right? There's a lot of like sliding up and down. And to do that in JIRA is fucking bogus. It's a lot of Control X, Control V, whereas doing it in Notion is a lot of click and drag, which is a lot friendlier for me. So I prefer to do that. So then what my JIRA ticket ends up looking like is a Notion link. That's my JIRA ticket detail. It's like, you want to know what this is, click the link, go to Notion, and it's all right there. The JIRA ticket is just to track the progress of the work, and it gets linked to like a PR. It almost turns JIRA into like a shell tool for us. But anyway, I think that's enough of my thoughts. I don't know if any of that spurs a reaction from you, but if it does, I'm curious. Otherwise, we can move on.
Sure. No, I have looks like 2 to 3 reactions.
Nice.
One question though first, which I think is the kind of interview host or the kind of podcast co-host I want to be. The contents of your Notion, how much is it a record of you workshopping things with your stakeholders and engineers? Or is it just you thinking real hard and typing what you thought? like
You're
a
asking. You're
journal
asking.
almost of your negotiation and collaboration to identify what it is you want to have in hand, right? It's not just you figuring out what you're going to ask somebody. You're talking to them, or you're not talking to anybody. You're just talking to maybe you heard one time, you're going to figure it out, and you're going to hand it to the devs via this link. Like, just elaborate that flow as it relates to talking to people before, after, or during your construction of the Notion content.
I think. I think I see what you're asking. Basically, it is collaborative. I definitely work with other people to define these things, and my process looks a lot like I start from a private note. So, like first discovery esque kind of call. I'll hop in with a stakeholder or stakeholders, and we'll just talk. And I'm usually looking for like, what is like the real goal here? What's the real problem here? What like metric are we trying to move? If I'm being responsible, that's kind of how I should be thinking. And because usually a stakeholder, they'll show up with like a list of features and be like, here are the things that we want, and they'll have like a general why statement for each of them. And it'll be something, in my case at Goldbelly, of course, it would be something like, oh, like we see a lot of merchants that want this feature. And if I go and kind of pass that along up the chain, if I'm trying to justify why something is living on my roadmap and why we're going to go after it at a certain time, I might get asked a question like, okay, well, like what merchants? How many of them? And it's like, yes, I
Uh-huh.
should, I should know the specific impact. I made a joke today. This kind of came up today in a stakeholder meeting because I was like, why am I being so pedantic? And this is why, it's like, this reminds me of when I was like in Comp 2 in college, and I'd use all this fluffy language. Like I'd say like a lot of, and there are so many, and it's well known that, and my Comp 2 professor would be like, what is a lot? Exactly how many? Who says this? And it's like, be specific. You can't just use that fluffy language to justify something. You have to be specific. So I'm working harder to do that myself, even right now. But what my process looks like is I start with this sort of personal note. So I'm like just typing my real raw thoughts I'm capturing, but I'm also adding my own commentary and thinking. And then by the end of that call or couple first discovery calls, I'll finally like kind of, lift the curtain by way of taking my raw personal notes and sort of cleaning them up and refining them into a more public document that will now live and become basically the project document. Like, here is the definition of the project and what we're going after. And even still, the first version or the first draft of that document is really just the list of questions that we have that we're iterating on, that we're working through. It's like a record of the conversation, but a more cleaned up record than what I, jot down in my personal notes. And a lot of my personal notes also go in a little notepad as I'm going along. So I'll review that as well and try to clean up that stuff. So what I end up with then is something that I can collaborate with the stakeholders on. And then I'll slowly start to fill out what isn't really a template. I've played with templates here too. It's the same kind of template that we talked about. There are just what I would say are kind of like recurring sections that tend to come up. I mean, requirements is a popular one. Links is a popular one that and by popular, I mean, I just tend to add that a lot. I'm like, yeah, there are some reference links here. So I put a link section. So if I went across all of those, I'd probably come up with some kind of somewhat reliable template. But I don't know that I'd use every section every time or anything like that. Sorry, very long-winded answer.
Well, no, it's fine, and I also I think it's worth being able to get into the long-windedness of it. I don't think it's ideal to rush through these things. You had mentioned hard to fit, extra work. You got into something I wanted to get into later. I'll just say now, from a Scrum book, Spirit of the Game, my very favorite sentence from my very favorite pattern, product backlog item. I'm going to read at you verbatim. Here it comes. So a good PBI, two sentences. So a good PBI represents a set of requirements rather than being a mechanism. What am I reading here? No, this.
Your
Here, hold on,
favorite sentence.
hold on. No, I highlighted two sentences. Here we go. It's. I had good twice. My favorite sentence. A good PBI, product backlog increment, or item, memorializes one or more rich interactions between and among the developers and the product owner, rather than itself being the vehicle by which developers learn requirements. And so one dysfunction is, well, yeah, how could you possibly compress what they need to know into a issue template? You can't. What you got to do is have that be the notes you took about the conversation you had, if you were to follow this pattern. It seems
Yeah.
like you're kind of doing that with stakeholders. Do you as well maybe workshop it a bit with the developers?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
There's
then you've
there's a
done
later
that,
step, right?
and that's your Notion content. You've done that, sold. With regard to hard to fit and extra work, um, what is it that this is serving? What does this item do? You said PRs and stuff. Maybe the JIRA, what is it that you're putting in there? Is it the what of the product, or is it the how of implementation? And do you try to stuff both of those in the same place? Maybe there's a root question to ask, like, what is this serving? What harms are you trying to mitigate here? Is it that they're trying to fill it out? Do they have, and I was going to say this earlier, you have recurring sections. I'm curious if you could identify a set of necessary questions to have answered by it. You might be able to frame the template in terms of questions. And I would say, because of that, like, what questions are you being asked that aren't answered by these issues such that they're demanding a template from you?
Let's talk about the proposed template.
Sure.
It's pretty brief. So the proposed template is 5 bullets. Bullet 1 is objective/purpose. Bullet 2 is acceptance criteria/definition of done. Bullet 3 is context/background. Bullet 4 is dependencies, if any. And bullet 5 is stakeholders. And I feel like, all of that I pretty much just put in Notion. That's why, like I said, I usually just have a link to Notion in my JIRA tickets. But if I was to play nice, I'd say, objective and purpose, like, yeah, sometimes it's kind of long-winded, but I could maybe put a very brief, like, maybe like make note of like what KPI or something, or what
The name of the outcome might be nice.
Yeah, something like
Just
that.
label it.
Like
You
a more
don't need
narrative
to
outcome.
fit the whole thing in there. See the context block, I think, is your saving grace. See Notion for context.
Yeah. Acceptance criteria/definition of done. Here is where I love, like, just a good old fashioned checklist. And I would like that to live right on the JIRA ticket. It's like, if you can't check every box, the ticket's not done. It's just, that I think is fair. That's probably the most important piece of information in the JIRA ticket if you're to add anything more than a Notion link, in my opinion. Context and background, that would still be a Notion link. There's no fucking way I'm going to duplicate that information further into a JIRA ticket where the formatting is going to get all jacked up. Like, there's no way that that's a valuable use of my time, and that it's going to give any value to anybody if I do anything other than just a link.
No.
And then dependencies, if any. What does that even mean necessarily? Is that just related JIRA ticket? Is that just blocked by JIRA ticket?
Yeah, blocked. I read that to mean blocked by, like, what does this thing depend on? Is it independent?
Right. Okay.
Not like what words are the same in other cards, but like, this will answer the question, what's stopping you from moving this forward? Right this very moment. What is stopping you from moving this forward? And if it's that you haven't typed enough, that's fine. But if there's any other reason, that's a dependency.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So I guess in many cases, you could just use in JIRA, for example, you could just use the linked ticket functionality if it's blocked by something else. But maybe it's not necessarily a ticket. Maybe it's blocked by some other thing. Maybe it's like, we need design for that. Is that valid? Or like,
wouldn't
what if it's like,
be a thing that needs fulfilled in JIRA? Unless design doesn't happen in JIRA?
That's what I'm saying.
And also, you could
I
just
mean,
put the name of a thing in there. And I know you can @ tickets in JIRA too. You just put it in the list.
yeah, I'm just saying, like, maybe the dependencies section can be a little broader if it's useful to just be like, hey, you're going to need these things to happen before we're able to get this done. If that's the case,
I
maybe it's
believe
more
that's
than
what
just linking to other
that's what
JIRA
I think when I
issues.
see that definition. But something else I did want to get at, uh, make the template and ignore it. I love that. Add it to the deck as sure, bud.
Yeah, right, right.
Whatever you want, buddy. Yeah, great. And then just ignore it because the only difference between what's going to happen anyway and you ignoring it on purpose is that it'll happen a week sooner.
Yeah, and then stakeholders. Interesting. The original PM requesting the ticket, and if known, the original business user slash impact. That one is like, I mean, okay, it might be useful to know who you reach out to if you have questions, but in general, it's like, me, fam. Like, if you don't know, if you have a question for a stakeholder, like, let's talk about it. What did I miss?
Well, are you the product owner? Is that in fact recognized as true in your organization that you are the
Yeah.
product owner? That differs from one who manages the product because you might have some formulation of the stakeholders being the true owner.
Yeah, I guess in some cases there's some overlap, but I can't think of any case where like an engineer should need to go grab a stakeholder and try to work through something because there's no
Well,
way that that doesn't impact like scope or something that I should at least at the very least be informed on. So it's like I don't just work with me. I'm going to make it easier on you. Tell me, like, just tell me. I'm not even trying to gatekeep. It's just like help me help you. But I guess what I'm saying is like an enumerated list of stakeholders. It's like that's literally in my Notion cards. I literally have a section called stakeholders where I select them from a list because it's a fucking database, and so I can actually like go back and review like what I've done per stakeholder
oh,
and stuff. So in Jira, it's
see
like having
context.
that in a
See
text
context.
template is like valueless from my perspective. Now, all these things I haven't even talked to this person about yet. It was literally like a, hey, can we make use of Jira templates? This is what I was thinking. And my response was like, I can totally do that. Honestly, in my experience, I haven't seen a lot of value in templates, but I see no harm and it's something I can set up today. And then I responded again and said tomorrow, actually, because then I remembered we were doing a pod.
So for the stakeholders, then you would be like see context. But I wonder as well if the fifth why for doing this in the first place and then the way in which you choose to do it in the second place have been inspected at that level of the fifth why, right? Why? Oh, here's actually why, because yeah, stakeholders. Well, what's that actually for? Who specifically is going to reach for that piece of content to what end? Being worth inspecting. Beware adding process because it sounds nice. I think it's worth scrutinizing process because you might
Yeah.
discover a better option, or you might be like, no, you know what? This is correct, and we really need to be doing this, and I can comply with it just fine by pointing back to the context JIRA or a Notion link, but maybe this is fair and we should indeed do it, and there's some kind of language model stuff you can do to parse the results. I don't know what kind of data you want to match. Um,
Well, I think you have a good point, and then we can close it out here because I'm feeling good. A question worth asking might be like, okay, what were we missing recently, and how did it affect us? That like kind of led to this, and also it would be fair of that person to respond if I was like, well, I just put a Jira link, man, and like everything, or sorry, I just put a Notion link in the Jira ticket and everything's just in Notion. So like it's all there. But then if they go to Notion and any of these questions aren't answered there, okay, so maybe the tool that the template is in doesn't matter. As you were kind of saying from the beginning, you're like, we use GitHub. It's like, okay, maybe there's a need here for information. We don't have all the pieces when we're going to do the work. Where does that information live? Probably not super important. It's more important that the information lives. And so if it's a link to Notion, fine. Let's put a template in Notion. and let's follow some kind of minimum amount of information that needs to be met in order for us to say we can work on this thing now. And I think that that's probably fair, especially given that, like I said, most of my Notion stuff is like homegrown. I just build it up until it's like, yeah, this is pretty well defined. I think I talk to the engineers. Everybody knows what needs to happen here. It's much more of a gut feel thing. It's not like, have we checked every box that needs to be checked before we're ready to work on something? It's more like, does it feel like we're ready? It feels like we're ready. Yeah. And that's kind of how I've worked for years in this role. But what's funny is you get a new EM, and then I think one of the very first projects that they were even exposed to that the team was working on missed like an estimate. It was basically like the engineers estimated like this thing will be done in a couple weeks. And now it's been like 4 weeks and we're wrapping it up. And so the EM was like, sucker, blur, like, how could this happen? And and the thing is, like, it was estimated the week before they got here. And so it definitely, and I was relatively hands off with this situation because there's like another PM involved. It's just like, it's a sort of messy project setup when it comes to stakeholders and ownership. And the estimate was not done very carefully and I wasn't very involved. And so I'm kind of looking at it as like, okay, let's not use this like one scenario to dictate how we should conduct ourselves on every project. Because what I don't want to do, my fear, if I have one, is like, I don't want to add a bunch of overhead and a bunch of extra steps for myself and for others to address something, to address one rare outlying circumstance. So anyway, thanks for indulging me on that one. That was fun.
I'm reminded of the idea to want it twice before following through on satiating that want. If you want to go buy something, if you want to have a snack or whatever, you can have it the second time you want it. Is something I'm reminded of. You'll see where it applies or not. But I do think, stepping back, considering the first principles, reason behind doing it and what it serves, and being careful, as you were saying, not to, make a rule for one person or make a rule based on one time event, or I forget what the phrasing is, but like,
yeah,
watch out. Yeah, maybe you don't need it. But no, that's a fine evergreen topic. Where does information live? Why do we have it? How does it serve us, and all of that? And I've got at least one topic on my side. I want to hear yours, and then I might overrule it. We'll do mine instead.
Well, so far this is shaping up to be a pattern episode. Is your topic a pattern-related topic?
I could say a pattern-related. No, mine is about vibe coding on my phone.
That's fun. That's a little more free form.
No, if you got another pattern, let's. Oh, okay. I was gonna say we're on the back half here. So there is. We've talked about it a little bit. There's a thing going around. It's called vibe coding. As best as I understand it, the idea is you command an agentic coding assistant to realize some outcome. Please put a button here, or make it do this, and the screen flashes a bunch because you give it just YOLO auto edit permissions to just change your files, and the hot reload just does it. So the code's freaking out over here, your thing's changing over here, and then it's done, and then it looks like what you thought, and you click around and you're like, yeah, that feels right to me. You don't even look at the code. You don't even look at it. Okay, vibes only. Okay, you just see if the vibes feel right.
This is my literal dream. It's finally happening.
You would actually probably have a lot of fun with this for a little bit. The complexity can get out of hand if you don't know what you're doing. But
I've seen so many funny videos on vibe coding recently. It just really makes me want to do it.
You should. I'm going to tell you how you can do it for free today.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and on your phone, not on your phone, on my phone. There are a couple solutions out there. There's Cursor is probably the most popular, I think. I haven't done the research on this with regard to market research. You have Cursor, Cursor. I think it's like $20 a month for pro usage or whatever. I think they have free option. I don't know what it can do. There's Windsurf. There is GitHub Copilot, of course. They just released agent mode to try to compete with these systems. There's another one that I'm using. It's not even its own separate system. It's an extension in VS Code called Cline, C-L-I-N-E, Cline. You install the Cline extension, and you can pick your model. And right now, one of the better models is the Google Gemini model that has a preposterously generous free tier of 15 requests a minute, 1 million token context, which is 5 times the size of Claude, at least 3.5. I don't know if 3.7 got any higher. I think it's still 200,000. And so what I've been doing is I set up an API key. There's just a click, and then you're like, log in with Google and give me an API key, copy, paste it in. All right. You select Flash 001 because the 2.0 model is like, or 2.5 model is like 25 requests per day, but that's like the ultra highest model, which is still great every day when you're like, listen, I worked a lot last week. Can you just fix this 2.5? And it just does it. But it's cool because you have effectively unlimited free vibe coding in your IDE. I'll take a breath there before I tell you the rest of it.
So I would install VS Code, add the Cline extension, select the free Gemini model.
You would select Gemini, and then it would say, click here to get an API key. You log into Google, grab your key, pop the key, and hit save.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you can look up the Gemini free tier amounts. There's like 25 a day for the best one, 15 per minute for the not quite best one, but still pretty damn good. So you can look up what the quotas are. But then
does it just tell you in VS Code if you've like hit your limit? Is it like, sorry, boss?
Oh yeah, it'll throw an error like you went beyond your quota. I think it's like 429 or something. You went above quota. But so
just error code for it, like a 404, but it's 429. Too much context.
Yeah, 429 above quota or something. But so okay. So that's a lot of fun, right? And then let me see what this text is real quick.
Just while you're looking at that, it's really funny. Like 3 days ago, I watched a funny vibe coding video. You probably saw it. It was probably shared in Peopleware or something. But immediately after that, I went to Grok because it's the only model that I'm currently paying for. And I was like, hey, can you vibe code? That's just all I asked it. And it was like, well, boss, I'm not really sure what you mean by vibe code, but if what you mean is, can I help you write a program? Like, yeah, sure. What are you trying to do? And I left it at that for the moment. I was just curious, like, how it would respond, because I assumed if I wanted to try this, since I know nothing, I would first have to talk to something like Grok to get it to tell me how to even set myself up. And then once I got through those steps, hopefully it would have got me to the same thing, like VS Code. Yeah, it'd be like, install VS Code, add the client extension, set up Gemini, and then you're off to the races or something. I don't know if it would do that, because that would mean I'm not using Grok anymore. I don't know if Grok would play that nicely.
So you can use Grok. You can ask Grok to help you come up with a more robust description of what you'd like to ask Cline to do. And then you copy paste it, and then you hit send.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that way I'm saving some context and stuff. Well,
also, Grok is a superior model to the free version that you can access in Gemini, and so you can, for example, mix and match. Maybe it'll do better. Maybe it'll catch this or that. But yeah, so there's that. And now, so on the rest of my setup though is a little silly. I don't have VS Code installed, actually. I have something called Code Server installed on my Coolify server, where I go to a URL I won't share with you, and it pops open an in-browser VS Code looking experience hosted on my server over there. Okay? It's like a website that gives me the code editor, but all the saving happens on that computer. And if I visit it from different computers, it's the same content because it's that computer over there. And one device I can access it on is my phone. And so what what I've been doing on my phone is I've installed it as a progressive web app. I've installed the Klein extension on my phone, and I have I don't know if I'll be able to even show this to you. I
So you have
have
VS Code on your phone, or
I
like,
have
do you even need it? Oh my god.
I don't know if this is visible to you.
Yeah. I can see it pretty well. Like I
Okay,
can't read
well
it, but I
so
know what I'm seeing. I
well
see like an
so
IDE on the
this is
right,
this
and
is
I see.
Klein. This is me being able
Okay.
to ask Klein stuff. This is my code, and so I can be like, make hold on, make
I assume you can do this with your voice, right? Because to me, that's half the
oh,
fun
I
of
probably
vibe
could.
coding is
Oh,
you
let me do it
don't
right
touch a
now.
keyboard.
Make the background blue. Okay, here we go. Ready? Wait, it put in the wait, here we go, ready part. All right, I'm gonna try that.
And it's like, okay, sure, boss. I'm thinking, I'm doing stuff. Oh my god! And then what is that? That pop? So what? You're writing a keyboard?
No, the keyboard pops up whenever input changes, so I
Oh,
have
when
to
you need.
like
Oh, I thought. Well, you said
but
make the
look,
background blue. I thought you were making like the background of the keyboard blue or something.
no,
Like, what
but
are you
but it
making
just
the
made a bunch of
background?
changes, and then
Yeah. How do you see?
I go to my Git diff and look at the change it made, and then I can just be like stage, it sounds good, and then I have the website that this is hosted on served from my server accessible on my phone, and because I have TwinGate set up, I could do this anywhere in the world from my
That's
phone.
really cool. That's
But that
really
was
really
fun,
cool.
and so I've been like vibe coding half-ass like a little app. I don't know. I haven't done anything serious with it, but like I have spent like an hour just fucking with it. Like in like you're scrolling Twitter. I'm over here like fucking trying to code something on my phone with using Klein. So that was fun.
To
That's my
me,
update.
the vibe coding experience, what it is like in its best form for someone like me is you have your your chat, and then you have your application, like your running application, and you say your shit to the chat, and it does some stuff to the code that honestly you can show the code but make it really really small. Like I don't even want to expand the code unless I'm really geeking out about a very specific thing, but for the most part I want to not even think about the code. I want to see the application. I want to ask it to change my application. I want to see the application reload, and there's the change that I requested. And I want to be able to click around and play with it real time and like, okay, yeah, it shouldn't do this, it should do that. That to me is the rawest, purest form of vibe coding that I would love to achieve. I don't know what I'm willing to pay for it. I'd want to try it for free, and then
Oh yeah, it's
depending on what
free
I'm able
right
to do with
now.
it, maybe pay for
It's
it. Yeah,
$0 right now for pretty
yeah,
damn good. And also you can get what you're asking for with two monitors. You have your code over here, and you just look away from the code when it happens, and just
right.
look at your monitor over here. Okay, and then it'll just do it. And then you also have to know what Git is, because there's a lot of people that are like vibe coding for a month and then Cursor deletes all their files and they're like, oh no, my files are gone. It's like, bro, you have not been committing this stuff to Git. Oh, what the hell are you even saying? And like, how does Cursor not tell you to commit that stuff to Git? Because what I
How
do
does it
is,
not do it for you? How am I not like, this is good, commit this, and then
well,
and then I progress.
if you knew to say commit this, it probably would, but you don't, because you don't know what you're doing, because you don't know how programming works, because you just got into vibe coding because you've been in product this whole time, and now you know how hard it is for us engineers to build stuff. Um,
Right.
I just what I do is I'll be like, go make this change. I'll look at the code. I'll look at the code and be like, okay, this is trash. Discard, reset to prior to you making your change. Try again and do it this way. Okay, that looks great. Stage, and I'll be like, let me commit this. Okay, now make this change. No, that's fucked. Make this change. No, that's fucked. Okay, that looks great. Stage. Okay, that's what I wanted to do. Commit. And so that's how I do it.
And staging is where you get to see the changes that it made.
The changes appear immediately. Staging tells Git, lock these differences in to be committed. It is an intermediate period where you go, I want this and this and this and this and this. Okay, commit. I use it like make a bunch of changes. Okay, checkpoint, make a bunch of changes. Checkpoint, make a bunch of changes.
Yeah.
Ugh, undo, try again. Ugh.
Yeah. All
Okay,
right.
checkpoint. Okay, commit.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Nah, that's what I want, man. I mean, similar to what I've been saying about Bitcoin for a long time. Like, I feel like we're still not quite there when it comes to user friendliness, but it feels like we're getting really, really close to your average Joe. And it sucks because every time I say average Joe, it's like the one Joe I know is so not the average Joe. But in a more average Joe, you have one of these guys, and he just wants to create some kind of digital thing. I don't know. Like you say application, it doesn't necessarily even have to be an application. It could be some kind of art or something. But like to vibe software sounds so awesome and like a future we should totally be able to live in. And
It's
the slop will be off the charts, like totally off the charts. I was talking to my wife about this because she plays around with the LLMs and stuff. I mean, who doesn't at this point, right? I feel like even a year ago it was like cool kids, and now it's like everybody's get peace no matter what you do. Um, she was like, "Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. It does this for me, it does that for me, but like it generates a lot of like bullshit too, And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Joe told me we call that slop, but I was like, the way I kind of see it, the way I kind of see it is like we don't need to get to a world where like AI is not generating slop. I think that is a misguided. If anybody has that goal, that's a misguided goal. I think really it's like I told her I was like I look at slop as like the wake that is made by the ship on a path to some realistic goal, to some valuable goal, some value generation, some outcome that actually is worth something. So it's like on the way there, you're just your slop is I envision like the back of like the slop is just flying out the back, and it's disgusting, and most of it is useless, worthless byproduct, um, but also not very costly byproduct. It's like it's useless. It's gone. It was digital, right? It's ephemeral. It doesn't matter. It's gone. It's not like you've got literal trash piling up, right? It's not like a byproduct for physical goods where like if you generate a ton of something toxic, it's going to cause a problem for the planet. It's like you can generate infinite slop and delete it pretty much at the same time. So no harm done. And you generate a shitload of slop and then you create something of value. And I think that that's really the way you should be thinking about using an LLM to generate something of any value is like, yeah, you're probably going to make a bunch of garbage along the way, and that's fine. It's part of the process. What do you think about that? Does that sound
I
like,
yeah at the yeah at the end there, I was thinking something like, it's never been easier to rack up L's before a W. The way you get to a W is you got to rack up L's, and the quicker you can rack them up, the quicker you hit the dub, right?
right?
Right.
That's a
Like
great way of putting it.
I'll even say it at like I'll be at work and I'll be like, okay, we need to fail immediately. Let's quick. Let's do a bad job as soon as possible. I have said the phrase, "Let's do a bad job as soon as possible."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bad job. You're going to hate it. I'll make it better, and we'll do that until you like it or you stop wanting us to continue.
Right, because it's like a W is built atop a foundation of L's, and like
A
if
pile.
you haven't laid down your L's foundation, there's no building of a W. And so
Hey,
the slop is you can just crank out the L's now lightning speed faster than ever before, and you can really get to that foundation you need to get your W built. I like that. That's a fun way
yeah.
of putting it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I as well. Like uh, so I'm doing a lot of Gen AI where I work, and there was like a comment of like, oh, maybe this team could catch up or take it over, and it's like the reason we could just keep doing what we're doing over here is because I'm literally 100 mistakes ahead of them. Like I'm 100 L's ahead of them. It's going to take them months to fail as much as I have. Okay, at this, and yeah, it's just going to take a while. And like, it's fine to build up and do stuff, and you shouldn't just rely on one person or whatever. But like, you do have to lay down the foundation of L to get the W. I will say though, you are not guaranteed a W. There was an example in vibe coding discourse where a user had put this stuff together. He had even had paying customers. He was scaling his recurring revenue. Okay, and I think he's like a product guy. And then he was like, "Oh, because I announced what I had done, some people who are mean are attacking my website and they're deliberately just for fun messing it up just to hurt me." And it's like there's two problems this brings up. One problem is you did not do what was necessary to keep your site safe. Like security is not part of vibe coding yet. Eventually it will be. Like none of this is like, oh, this is always how it's going to be. But like right
Yeah.
now, it's not. And you need to know what the hell you're talking about, or you're going to go into debt allowing someone to burn your API credits you won't get money back for.
Mm.
Or that you'll lose a bunch of people's data and get sued or whatever. So there's that. But then there's also like the way this was phrased is it's like you have not even been exposed to the concept of web security to think that this is just people being mean to you. This is like there's just an ambient malevolent pressure on the internet. Period. Okay? It just is malevolent. You know, it's not like, oh, I'm being targeted. No, you are. There's bullets flying everywhere constantly, and if you never think to ask for a helmet, you're gonna die every time, and you can't fix that until you know that helmets exist.
Okay.
That's an even more troubling thing is that there's like a fundamentals of security that you have to know about. You have to learn about this like domain that it exists for you to even ask for. It'll improve over time, of course. LLMs will do it for you, but not today.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I have I have ideas for a couple things that I'd love to build, and I don't even know necessarily that they would need to be connected to the internet. So I guess that maybe protects you a little bit. But
Oh, I
I don't know,
love
whatever.
working
If you throw it
outside
on
of
your
the
phone,
internet.
yeah, I know. No, I mean, you're real big on doing your stuff in your own zone.
Oh yeah.
And it's not fair that most average Joes don't have a above average Joe to consult. You know, when they need to do something.
Talk to ChatGPT, you'll be fine.
Fortunate me. I don't know, man. ChatGPT just doesn't hit the same. Well, okay, so we're down to 9 minutes. This has been good so far. Now it's kind of half pattern, half AI, which is another one of our kind of things. So I don't know if to make it meta for the last couple of minutes, I don't know if our split really works at the episode segmentation level. Maybe it's like tagging per episode. Like
Okay.
this episode
Okay.
would be tagged with a free form tag and a pattern tag and a meta tag, because now we're talking about, you know, the show itself. What do you think about
Okay.
that?
I did not show up prepared. You showed up prepared. Was all the stuff you had prepared pattern related?
No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
here, let me
Well,
read them off. That's fun. Let me read them off. That's
yeah,
fun.
yeah, read them off. Read them off.
So about 5-ish minutes before the call, I busted out my handy dandy and I just jotted down bullet points of things that immediately came to mind as stuff to talk about. And so the list is JIRA templates, road mapping season, estimating - planning poker, magic clips, spring schedule, clearing old software. Oh yeah, I know what that is. Property valuation dispute, warm versus cool lighting, and Amazon returns. Those were all of the different things that came to mind as possible things to talk about.
Okay.
Any of those jump out at you? Because we've got 7 minutes.
magic clips. Let's talk magic clips because
All right.
I need to be reinvigorated because I wrote down a list of all the stuff I desperately want to spend time on so that I could cross them out and bury them. And then I got into vibe coding and unburied one of them and need to put it back in the dirt for at least 6 months because why am I working on this?
Why don't you just
Um,
vibe code the magic clip solution and kill two birds with one
that's what
stone?
I'm saying. That's what I should do
Yeah.
on
Okay.
my
I'm
phone.
with you. There you go. Dude, that sounds great. That's like a great thing to test the vibe coding experience for yourself with, is to go do something you actually want from
I
it.
don't know if
You
I'll
know?
ever go full vibes, but I definitely use the shit out of the agentic activity. I do inspect
Oh
the
my
code
god.
every time. I scrutinize it a lot. I'm a poser. I do not vibe code.
It just sounds so ideal.
I
Even
think you would have
vibe
fun
coding as an
vibe coding. I
attitude sounds ideal to me.
think you would have fun vibe coding a 3D JavaScript game using 3JS. Everyone can do it. It's so easy. I think you'd
Right.
have a blast.
Right. Right. That's, I think that, like, there's, okay, so that's a good thing to bring up too, I think, is like there's a sort of like, what would you call it? A zone or
Like a Venn
a,
diagram of some kind.
yeah, but basically like there's just a category. There's the word. There's like a category of applications. Maybe there are a category of categories of applications that you can vibe code with relative, I guess, like ease and safety, or low risk, relatively low risk. Oh, almost knocked over my whole desk there.
Anything running on the client is probably safe because you shouldn't trust that code anyway.
What do you mean by that when you say that?
Oh, if you're executing something on a
Oh,
server,
client side. Client side. I
yeah,
see what you mean.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, okay. I thought you meant like in the like the
the
coding
customer
client. It doesn't
context.
matter. No. It's stupid. Stupid. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Right. So anything running like locally is that was kind of what I
Locally
was
is the
saying.
right word. Locally is the right word. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's what I was kind of
Local's
saying before
fine.
too.
You know, as long as you don't try to secure your server without knowing what the hell you're doing, you'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Maybe I'll
But
write my habit tracker.
dude, habit tracker would be a fun one. You should absolutely, not only should you vibe code a habit tracker, you should use idx.dev and vibe code it with Google Gemini specifically for building Android apps in the browser for free.
That sounds nice.
It is nice. You should do it.
The only thing that prevents me from being a world class vibe coder right now is really just environment setup. It's like if I could sit down, if you actually, if I could just buy the hardware, if I could literally buy, like, here is a vibe coding tablet. Here you go. It's got all the software set up, the IDE, everything's good to go. Everything is set up for you. You fucking log in with your Google account and start talking to it. That's the kind of
I,
experience
I
I'm
don't know
looking
if you're
for.
fucking with me, but that's idx.dev. It's a website that is that, and it can build Android apps for you.
Uh, can you hear me?
What just happened? Yeah.
Oh, thank God. Okay, cool. I don't know. I
You
smacked
changed your
a
device,
wire.
and now your microphone is in a different device. You have 3 minutes. Get your shit together.
Can you at least still hear me? I don't even
Yeah.
care if the last 3 minutes are weird.
Yeah, wrap it up. You're good. I can hear you. What are you working on?
Unreal. Fucking real. Sorry, you said IDX.
idx.dev.
And this is
And
a
then
hardware thing?
idx.dev is an in-browser free Google cursor competitor. You visit this website, you can just start coding, and then it'll have a button to let you build Android apps in it. And
And
if
it's
you can't
free?
find it, you're looking for the little, yes, it couldn't be more free.
Why
And
wouldn't I use this?
you should. You maybe don't use it if you are worried that they will train their models on the work you do.
Oh.
You
That should be so
wouldn't.
awesome.
You wouldn't. Well, so and then what you do is you open it up, you look around, watch a YouTube video on it if the interface isn't intuitive. And then there is a Gemini button in there somewhere, maybe at the bottom right. It's like a little four-pointed star, like compass-looking star, north, south, east, west looking star. Gemini pops up. Go to chat or go to edit mode or agent mode and just start demanding stuff from it.
Oh my God. So this is
So
what I need.
you should
Why haven't you told me this
absolutely
before? You went through this
have.
whole.
I've told you a couple
yeah,
times.
Michael,
Couple
sit
times.
down. You started this call with like, hey Michael, why don't you just sit down? Install VS Code, add Klein as an extension.
I was not
hook
talking to
everything
you.
on.
Okay, when I say
Oh.
you have to imagine that there's a listener to this podcast who is the you. Okay,
Right. Okay.
you
So
are a thing
talking
of the
to
past.
other yous out there. Okay, here
you
we
are a thing
go.
of the past.
Here's a good final question. Why don't you use idx.dev? What does it have for you?
It's great. I just I want a persistent workload,
why do you do
so I
all
don't
this
have to
other
spin
work?
it. Well, I want a persistent workload, so I don't have to spin it up and down. And I also installed a bunch of shit that was complicated to set up that I rely on for some of my work. I do
What do you mean
use
by
it to.
spin it up and down? Like every time you open it in browser, you have to start
Yeah,
from
you
scratch?
have to spin it up, and you got to start the thing, and it's probably fine for the work you would do on it. But I had some extra complicated stuff I had to do, like the whole audiobook thing. I needed GPUs, like it's a whole thing.
All
And
right.
so I've already got this set up. I wanted to try it anyway. Same model.
All right. Well, that's
And
time.
I
Hey,
do,
you
and
want
I
to know
and
something
I do use
interesting?
it.
Closing thought here. I saved it for the end this time. Your audio for like the whole call until I fucked up mine, it sounded almost like you were redlining for me a little bit, but not necessarily redlining. It sounded almost like you were talking at me through a metal slinky. So there was a little bit of like a slinky shake to it, like you hear
Okay.
the little metal vibrato. I don't hear it now. So I don't know if it was like on my end or something. I'm interested to see how the audio comes out in the end. It wasn't anything like super terrible, so I didn't say anything earlier. But it's interesting that it's gone now, so I'm saying something.
Make a face for the clip. I'm going to take both of our faces and make a YouTube clip for it. Okay, perfect. All right, that's it.